The rugby league world was fracturing. The Super League war loomed like a storm. Contracts were being torn up, loyalties tested, the very identity of the game was in flux. And amidst that storm, one club was quietly plotting one of the most improbable stories in rugby league history. The Sydney Bulldogs, as they were officially known that season, carried the weight of chaos around them. A proud club, seasoned in grit, suddenly stripped of its Canterbury name and identity, but they fought on, quietly determined to survive the storm. Truth is, their regular season was anything but smooth. Injuries piled up, consistency was hard to find. For weeks they looked like a side destined for mid-table obscurity. They were tough, yes, but wins were scrappy and losses were brutal. They even copped a 42-0 thrashing by Newcastle in round 13, a humiliation that had critics writing them off entirely. Yet there were flashes. In round 4, a gritty 16-12 win over St George showed their defensive steel. And in the final round, a 66-4 demolition of North Queensland sent a message that when they clicked, they were dangerous. Games that didn't make headlines, but proved that this side was learning how to win ugly and how to survive. This wasn't a dominant season for Canterbury. Far from it, actually. They finished 6th on the ladder. And they really weren't the team that anyone expected to win the trophy. As September rolled around, they definitely weren't favourites and not really many people gave them a chance. But the ladder only tells part of the story. Yes, 6th place, but the Bulldogs were brimming with potential. Close losses, narrow margins, a belief simmering beneath the surface, the kind that doesn't make headlines until it's too late. Round by round, victory by victory, the underdogs turned into giants in disguise, bruising tackles, those improbable tries, the iron will in the dying minutes. The Bulldogs began to suffocate teams with intensity. Finals football has its own rules, and once the Bulldogs got into that arena, their momentum shifted. Their belief hardened, and every other team that faced them became an obstacle to be smashed through, not respected. The first hurdle was St George in the qualifying final. A bruising, low-scoring affair, Canterbury hung on to win 12-8 in a gritty performance that set the tone. Next came Brisbane, a side many thought unstoppable, but the Bulldogs were relentless, swarming in defence and relentless in attack. They stunned the Broncos 24-10. Then the defending premiers, Canberra, a team stacked with internationals. Many thought that this would be where the Bulldogs' run ended. Instead, they delivered the most complete performance of the season, dismantling the Raiders 25-6 in a preliminary final. And suddenly, the forgotten team stood in the grand final against the minor premiers, the glamour side, Manly, a team that had only lost 2 games all year. Packed with stars, the heavy favourite, their pathway to the decider was smooth. They were arrogant, polished, expected to steamroll. But the Bulldogs had something Manly couldn't predict, an inner edge, a collective defiance. From the opening whistle, they set the tone. Every carry, every tackle, every second was contested. The kind of match where the clock slows and you feel every heartbeat. Terry Lamb was even sin-binned in the 6th minute, but that didn't rattle the side. They defended as though their lives depended on it. And when Glenn Hughes scored what appeared to be a 7th tackle, the controversy only fueled belief. Jason Hetherington threw himself into every shot. Matthew Ryan orchestrated under pressure, defence that turned into attack in a heartbeat, and Terry Lamb, he led with fire in his eyes. Manly stars couldn't breathe. Their lines were jammed, their precision unravelled, and their frustration mounted. Missed tackles, errors, uncertainty, and Canterbury pounced. The Bulldogs scored 11 unanswered points in the second half, and when the siren sounded, the scoreboard told the story. 79 minutes. That's all it took. The scoreboard that shook the world. Canterbury 17, Manly 4. It wasn't just a victory, it was an annihilation of expectation. The Bulldogs had done the impossible. A team that had limped in at 6 had dismantled every heavyweight side in their path. They weren't supposed to be there, but there they were. Champions. For Terry Lamb, a lifelong campaigner, it was a crowning victory. For the rest of the team, it was a signifier of their 1995 will and determination. Triumph, not in spite of everything, because of everything. The doubts, the resentments, the wounds of near misses. Because when the world is writing you off, that's when the fight becomes your story. Triumph always carries the weight, and for the Bulldogs, that would be the foundation, the turning point of what would become an epic saga of darkness and redemption. It was the triumph that would define the disaster and redemption still to come.